his government will not hesitate to deal decisively with anyone found causing disharmony or beating the drums of war.
I am here to reaffirm our commitment to all of you. Yes. And to also say that peace is very cardinal in Plateau State. Peace is cardinal in Nigeria. All we need to do is this year, let us be number one in peace in Nigeria. And any other thing can come after that.
Dagwam Izere of Jos, Ada Emmanuel Azik, appreciated the governor for fulfilling his campaign promises by building infrastructure pursuing the path of peace and progress of the state. He promised the continued support of his subjects to the government to enable it to discharge its responsibilities to the citizenry. And to other matters now, a road accident has occurred along Lokoja Abaji Road. The incident happened with an articulated vehicle lost control, caused multiple accidents. Some of officials of the Interior Ministry who were returning from a 2-day retreat were also affected. Although no lives were lost to the incident, but some of the injured were begging for emergency. Now, this is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. Stay tuned for more news after this timeout.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go so let the change begin from within. Look at you, yeah, Ogerola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Glad to have you back with us. Now, Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Ovie Omoh Agege, has said Nigeria's diplomatic missions abroad should do more, like the Nigerian High Commission in Canada, towards catering for citizens' needs and projecting national interests. Speaking during a visit to Canada, where he attended the 25th Biennial Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth, Senator Ovie Omoh Agege lauded staff of the Nigerian High Commission in Ottawa, Canada, for being sterling examples for other Nigerian foreign missions. Omoh Agege equally expressed deep appreciation to Nigeria's acting High Commissioner, Mr. Joseph Atodo, for being sensitive to the needs of Nigerians living in the country and projected the vision and mission of President Muhammadu Buhari's next level agenda. Now, Galilee is one of the foremost regions in Israel. This is because of the history tied to the region, especially during the times of Jesus Christ. Ruth Aguele was on a tour with some pilgrims from Nigeria who had the opportunity to connect to some of these legacies.
People have traveled from far and wide just to come and have a feel of the Benedictine monastery in Tabgha, the place of multiplication. Now, not because of its aesthetic architecture, but because it is said to be the place where Jesus performed miracles when he fed 5,000 people, built in 1982 during the Byzantine era. These pilgrims have also come to pay homage in thirst and hunger for the Word of God. From Tabgha, the pilgrims moved to Capernaum, the town of Jesus, where he spent most of his time performing miracles. The octagonal church was built in 1992 over the ancient houses to preserve the original structures. In the same vicinity is the place of the synagogue, the temple where the teaching of the word started.
And it is because of the synagogue they preserve the teaching of Jesus Christ, and that is what we are into today.
He was sympathetic and even impartative, healing the sick, and several things he demonstrated in this place.
The next stop was at River Jordan, where Jesus Christ was baptized, and today people are seen from different parts of the world replicating this act.
When we baptize, when we talk to God and we say that we are your son, we are your children. So the new covenants of the believer doing it during the baptism.
And I have faith that whatsoever is my heart desire, as I touch the water of the River Jordan, my case is settled.
And I know my life is changed actually by this visit.
River Jordan is 90 kilometers to the Dead Sea and flows roughly north to south through the Sea of Galilee. From Nazareth, Ruth Aguela, NTA News.
It's now time for some foreign news as the troops loyal to Libya warlord Khalifa Haftar pledged to halt the attack on Tripoli but warned of a harsh response if the defense violated the truce. The EU, Russia and Turkey were working to curb the fighting. Under international pressure, the forces led by Libyan General Khalifa Haftar declared a conditional ceasefire in their offensive to take Tripoli from their rivals, the unbacked government of National Accord. A spokesman for the Haftar-led Libyan National Army said the truce went into effect early on Sunday. A group of Iranian protesters have demanded Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to step down after Tehran said its military mistakenly shot down a Ukrainian plane, killing all 176 people on board. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Saturday the United States is monitoring Iranian demonstrations closely, warning against any new massacre as protests broke out after Tehran admitted to shooting down a passenger plane at a student protest to pay tribute to the crash victims on Saturday. Iranian authorities briefly detained Britain's ambassador in what the British government called a violation of international law. He was later released. And now let's turn our attention to review of some major stories that have made the headlines around the world during outgoing week, as Uche brings us World in 6 Days segment.
Hello and welcome to top stories around the world in the past 6 days. First from Britain, where Parliament approved Brexit, ending years of arguments that toppled two governments and divided a nation. Britain will leave European Union by the end of January. The House of Commons erupted in cheers after members of Parliament ratified Prime Minister Boris Johnson's divorce deal with Brussels' 330 votes to 231, drawing a line under an extraordinary era of political drama and chaos. On the US-Iran crisis, Iran carried out a ballistic missile attack on air bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq late Tuesday in retaliation for the killing of General Qasem Soleimani. In a live telecast, President Donald Trump announced that no American nor Iraqi was harmed. Trump said he would impose more economic sanctions on Iran and demanded that U.S. allies leave the nuclear deal so a new pact can be negotiated. In another development, Iran on Saturday admitted unintentionally downing the Ukrainian airplane that crashed shortly after takeoff near Tehran, 3 days after the crash that killed 176 people on board. Canada and the UK had called for a full and thorough investigation into the crash, which different causes were speculated. But Western leaders on Friday said evidence suggested an Iranian missile brought down the passenger plane, possibly in error, as the crash occurred just hours after Iran carried out missile strikes on two air bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq. Iran's civil aviation chief, however, countered these suggestions. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives moved to action by approving a symbolic resolution seeking to limit President Trump's ability to declare war on Iran. The measure passed the Democratic-run chamber 224 against 194. It aims to mandate congressional approval for any conflict with Iran, except in cases of an imminent attack against the U.S. Away from that, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen secured a second term after her victory in an election dominated by the island's relationship with China. Tsai got 8.2 million votes ahead of her rival. However, in her victory speech, she opposed closer ties with China and advised China to abandon its threat to take back the island by force. Turning attention to Africa, the Ethiopian parliament passed a law to regulate gun ownership to curb increased regional ethnic violence. The new law requires that each region outlines the legal age that one can acquire a gun and also limits the number of guns an individual can have. Defaulters are to be sentenced to 3 years in prison and arms traffickers to face prison terms of 8 to 20 years. And 9 Rwandan nationals who were on trial in a military court in Uganda after being accused of kidnapping and illegal possession of firearms had all charges against them dropped. The move came amid more than a year of strained relations between the two countries. The dropping of the charges appears aimed at easing some of the tensions between the two former allies. That's the world in 6 days. I am Uche Ugochukwu. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Uche, for the update. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has described the death of Sultan Qaboos bin Said Al Said of Oman as a great loss, not only to his country, but also the entire humanity, because of his record as a peacemaker and tireless mediator for peace in the troubled Middle East. In a statement signed by Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, President Buhari, reacting to the death of the longest reigning ruler in the Middle East on Sunday, said Sultan Qaboos dedicated his life to worthy cause in the promotion of peace for humanity. President Buhari explained that the late Oman ruler had also transformed his once poor country into a modern state, and his record would be remembered for years to come. President Buhari extends his condolences to the government and people of Oman, as well as the family of the deceased, and prayed Allah grant him paradise and reward his good deeds. It's now time to talk sports as Nigeria Football Federation targets grassroots development. Tamara Ebiwe tells us more on Sports Update.
Lobby Stars of Makurdi beat MFM by a lone goal Sunday in matchday 14 to move to the top of the Nigeria Professional Football League table, as Plateau United go to second place after a goalless draw against Akwa United in Jos. Dakada FC beat Rivers United 2-1, while Wiki Tourist lost 2-1 to Sunshine Stars in Akure. For a more successful footballing career for players within and outside the country, the Nigeria Football Federation says its unrelenting efforts at grassroots development will begin to yield results in the coming years. The reason the Federation focuses more on age-grade competitions.
With this kind of attitude we have of bringing young players to graduate to the senior teams, we are likely to, in very near future, to see more Nigerian players doing very well.
Football clubs within Oyo State, including Nigeria Union of Journalists and National Youth Service Corps, are set to compete in the maiden Sunday Dare Oyo Unity Cup, built to kick off January 25 in Ogbomosho. Lukman Hassan reports that the draws for the 3-week competition in Ogbomosho produced 4 groups with 16 clubs from the 14 federal constituencies of the state.
Our project is aimed to promote or to discover young talent in football in particular.
In tennis, Serena Williams won her first title in 3 years and first since becoming a mother with a 6-3, 6-4 victory over fellow American Jessica Pegula at the Auckland Classic on Sunday. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic inspired Serbia to victory in the inaugural ATP Cup as his 6-2, 7-6 singles win over Rafael Nadal helped his country beat Spain 2-1 in Sydney on Sunday. With sports update, Tamara Ibiwe, NTA News.
And now a quick look at Monday's weather prospects for Nigeria and some cities of the world. And that weather prospects wraps up our news on NTA International. Many thanks for watching.